Hello Upgraders and welcome to another episode of the Upgraded Ape Show. I'm your host Will Barron, and on today's show we have Hal Elrod, who's a #1 best-selling author, international keynote speaker, a top success coach, a national champion sales manager, ultramarathon runner, and a whole lot more. In today's show we talk about how Hal recommends to upgrade your mornings, but we get deep, and Hal gives us many awesome examples of how to just upgrade your life in general. We talk about the mind-body connection. We talk about Hal's book, The Miracle Morning. And Hal tells us his personal story of being hit head-on by another car at 70 miles an hour. Before we get started, just a quick note that this episode of the Upgraded Ape Show is sponsored by the upgradedape.com store, where you can find productivity upgrades such as the Get More Done 60-day planner and the Get More Done premium to-do system, plus our awesome high-performance coffee, vitamin D, krill oil, and other physical brain upgrades. Just visit upgradedape.com, click the store link, and check out all the products on there. So without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Upgraded Ape Show, your daily dose of brain upgrades to help you kick life's ass. And here's your host, Will Barron.
Hi Hal, and welcome to the Upgraded Ape Show.
Will, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Awesome stuff. Well, as we just mentioned previously, just before the show started, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to dive into. But first, before we get onto your book, The Miracle Morning, can you just tell us a little bit about something that you've mentioned in a whole bunch of shows that I've been watching and listening to as I've been doing some prep for this call? And that is the mind-body connection. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and your thoughts and feelings on it?
Yeah, and it is interesting that you asked me because you're right. I mention it occasionally, but I've never really talked in depth on it. So I'm a big believer in the mind-body connection and that we have so much influence over every aspect of ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, with a tool that is known as our mind. And the first kind of, evidence of this for me in a big way was when I came out, 20 years old, driving home after giving a motivational speech at a sales conference, and my car was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. Sent into oncoming traffic, and the car behind me hit me in the door at 70 miles an hour, literally crashed into my driver's side door at 70 miles an hour. And if anybody's, go online, you see the pictures of the car, it looks like half a car because the whole left side of the car was crushed into my body. Instantly, I broke 11 bones, and I began bleeding to death. And I actually died on the side of the freeway for approximately 6 minutes. I was in a coma for 6 days, came out of the coma. Doctors said, you have permanent brain damage. And you'll probably never walk again. So that was the reality that was thrust upon me that I had to deal with. And, I told my parents were devastated. I mean, they were really crushed and just crying a lot and just seeing their son like this, which I'm a dad now. Now I get it. I can imagine. I try not to imagine it. But what happened was I told my parents, I said, look, Mom and Dad, it's okay. Don't worry. And I said, there's only one of two options. Number one, the doctors are right and I'll never walk again. That's one option. I go, and if that's the case, I have already decided that I'll be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because the greatest lesson I've ever learned in my life is that every negative emotion that we ever feel is based on our non-acceptance of reality. Right? It's to the degree that we resist reality that we create emotional pain for ourselves. So for me, I said, Mom and Dad, if I've already decided, I will accept whatever the worst case scenario is. And when you can live your life in a state of, this is kind of a bonus lesson, but live your life in a state of unconditional acceptance, you're free from emotional pain. That's the key to emotional intelligence and being able to manage your emotions is accept all things that you can't change and only focus on embracing the things that you can change. And I said, Mom and Dad, option number two is, and I said, this is the one I'm betting on, and this is where the mind-body connection comes into play, is I said, option number two is I will walk again. I said, look, the doctors might be experts in medicine, but they're not experts in me. They're not going to dictate where I go and what I do in my life. I said, I'm putting all my energy into walking again. I'm visualizing it. I'm praying about it. I'm meditating on it. I'm thinking about it. It's all my energy, my faith, unwavering faith is going into that possibility until proven otherwise. And I don't think it's a coincidence, Will. I don't have a graph to show you, but I broke my femur, the biggest bone in the human body. It broke in two pieces, and one half came out the side of my leg. I broke my pelvis in 3 places. 3 weeks after the night of the crash, 1 week after I told my mom and dad this, the doctors came in with routine x-rays and they said, we don't know how to explain this, Hal, but your body is healing at just an incredible rate. We're going to let you take your first step tomorrow in therapy. So it went from never going to walk again to 3 weeks after my bones broke in two that I took my first step. And like I said, I don't have any graph to show you. Here's how positively I was thinking, and here's how my bones healed in parallel, right? I can't show you that. I just know from my experience. And
Hal, can I just stop you there? I just want to ask something. This is something that really intrigues me. The story's amazing and it's really inspirational. But did you have this mindset before the crash, or is this something that the crash brought on and kind of brought your reality to a head and made you think about things that you perhaps wouldn't have thought about?
I did have this mindset, but it was never tested in this way. So here's what I mean by that. When I was, I started in sales a year and a half before the accident, and in my sales training, I learned something called the 5-minute rule. And my mentor, Jesse Levine, simply said, guys, when you go out there, you're going to have some customers, they're going to be rude, they're going to be mean. Sometimes you're going to think you're going to buy, have a good sale, you're not going to have a good sale. He goes, in sales, there, just like in life, there's tons of disappointments. He said, the 5-minute rule says it's okay to be negative sometimes, but not for more than 5 minutes. He said, literally set your watch or your timer or your phone timer for 5 minutes. Bitch, moan, complain, whatever you got to do, get those negative emotions out, feel them. But after 5 minutes, he said, you literally go, okay, deep breath, can't change it. What am I going to focus on that's in my control? He said, you accept the things. That's where I first learned it. And then I had practiced that mindset for a year and a half. Granted, it was much milder adversities, no sales.
I was just about to say, mate, there's a bit of a difference between not getting a sale and being in an accident. It's horrific of what you just said and described.
Absolutely, but the principle is the same. I realized I can't change that I was in an accident, and I can't change that my bones are broken. I can't change that I have brain damage. So I can either be depressed and angry and upset and scared and sad while I recover, or I can be grateful and happy and optimistic. You know what I mean? Like we get to choose our mindset. And so I just decided to choose the latter. And I realize now, let me really quickly bring this down to reality for people that are like, well, yeah, he was in like a horrific accident. Maybe if I'm in a horrific accident, that I'll be able to do that too. You don't have to have a life-changing experience to change your life, right? I don't know who said that, but great quote. Here's the point. When I'm in traffic every day, I used to hate traffic. Now I love traffic because I realize I can't change traffic. So when I'm in that car stuck in traffic for 30 minutes or however long it is, I can either be, again, angry, frustrated, upset, go faster, cars, what's wrong? Or I can be the happiest, most grateful human being I can possibly be. And I've realized that choosing the latter really impacts the quality of your life. So whether it's a horrific car accident or it's traffic, that 5-minute rule and accepting anything that's out of your control is a total game changer. And I believe it's the linchpin for creating the emotional quality of life that we all want.
Mm-hmm. And just to emphasize that whole passage and point that most people don't realize that they are in control and that they can change their mindset instantly. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this all the time it's the only thing that you can control, what your thoughts and feelings are. Obviously, you've got external factors coming in. You've got to learn to maybe not put a barrier. You've got to be able to accept them, see them coming in, but then make your own decisions and not be moody because you lost a sale or you had a horrific accident, not be moody and pissed off. And yeah, I guess the other side of it is taking responsibility. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference. For me, I write quotes all the time. And one of my quotes is, the moment you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment that you claim the power to change anything in your life. And I think that the problem people have with that or the misunderstanding is they confuse responsibility and blame. And what I mean by that is they go, well, I'm not going to take responsibility for my parent abusing me or for that person, drinking and driving, like in my situation, right? It wasn't my fault, right? Here's the distinction is responsibility or blame determines who's at fault, but responsibility determines who's committed to changing things, who's committed to making, and it doesn't matter who's at fault. So people think that, well, I can't take responsibility for something that I didn't do. No, that's not true. I didn't cause my accident. I wasn't to blame. I wasn't at fault, but I damn sure was the only person that could be responsible for improving my life and creating the life that I wanted. And so we have to be really clear that distinction of, look, if something horrific has happened to you in your life, no one, I'm never not here to say it's not a big deal or you don't deserve to feel however you want to feel about it. I'm just here to say that if you want to improve your life, it starts with taking responsibility for everything in your control and accepting and being at peace with everything out of your control.
And that's so empowering. And yeah, we're going off track of what I want to talk about then, but I do think it's really important. And it's something that I see when I both interview people and meet with entrepreneurs or creative, successful people. All of them take responsibility for their lives. Even people who are successful, who may not be multimillionaires, they're doing a job. They're still working 9 to 5, but they want to do that. Someone telling them something's wrong, they'll take responsibility for that, accept it, and then make changes, which is basically what you described when I just put it in a really poor story.
That's absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Well, look, let's come back onto the mind-body link here.
Yeah.
And where did this come from your perspective? There's lots of science surrounding this, and there's lots of woo-woo kind of hairy-theory stuff, which it's fine when people believe because there's science to back it up.
Yeah.
But where do you come from this? Do you come from this as something that you've experienced and felt before, or is it that you'd read books on it? Where did this come around for you?
It's almost in hindsight. It's almost reflecting that I got clear on that. I didn't know, I don't think that when I was 20 years old that I really was that wise to realize what I was doing. A lot of it was just, conditioning, divine intervention. I don't even know. But I will tell you this. If you've read my new book, The Miracle Morning, and I talk in the book about how many hours of sleep that we need. And that's where I reference the mind-body connection of my accident. I go, look, if I could literally heal my cells, heal my bones in a way that it defied the logic of doctors. If I could do that with my mind, right, then being able to generate the energy that you need on, 7 or 6 or 5 or 4 hours of sleep seems like very simple to me. And in the book I talk about, I go, look, there's science that tells you that you need 8 hours of sleep, and there's science that says you can get by on 4. I said, I'll just share my experience with you. And I just did my own kind of testing where I would go to bed and I'd go, okay, I'm going to set the alarm for 8 hours from now, but I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to feel exhausted in the morning. I'm going to go to bed telling myself I'm going to feel tired. And what I found is when the alarm went off, I felt tired, right? The first thought we have in the morning is almost always the last thought we had before bed. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so then I would try 7 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours. I would do different increments of time. And every night tell myself I was going to feel really tired when the alarm went off. This was my own experiment. And then after that, and I go, wow, every night when I went to bed really focusing on how tired I was going to feel, I felt tired as soon as the alarm went off. And then I thought, I'm going to try the opposite. And I went to bed. I got 8 hours of sleep. And I went to bed going, this is the perfect amount of sleep that I'm going to need to feel energized when the alarm goes off. In fact, when the alarm goes off, I'm going to jump out of bed. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to go straight downstairs, brush my teeth, wash my face. I'm going to take on the day. And that was my last thought before bed. In fact, I call it my bedtime affirmations that I share in the book. And what do you know? 8 a.m., it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Or 8 hours later, alarm goes off, I jump out of bed, right? I'm energized. Same hours of sleep, but that the intention that I created for how I would feel when those hours of sleep were up, radically different. And then I did it for 7, then I did it for 6, then I did it for 5, and I did it for 4 hours of sleep. And every single time when I went to bed, programming myself, telling myself that I was going to feel energized off that many hours of sleep, I did. Now, I'm not one to say that you should sleep 4 hours a night, although I know many, there's something called polyphasic sleep, which we don't, need to get into the deep depths, but that's, a lot of people that sleep 4 hours a night. Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, a lot of the most famous minds in history that contributed the most to our society were known for sleeping, 5, 4, 3 hours a night.
Hal, some of the audience will know what polyphasic sleep is, okay, but do you want to just give a quick 2-second overview just for those that don't?
I'm not an expert in it. It's been a long time since I've even studied it. And but polyphasic sleep is essentially where you sleep like 3.5, 4 hours at night, and then you take a 10 to 20 minute nap every 3 hours throughout the day. But it ends up accumulating to, a total of usually 4 to 5 hours of sleep a day, which obviously if you do the math and, you're used to sleeping 8 hours, now you're only sleeping 5, you're getting, you're adding 3 hours a day of productive time times 7 days a week. That's 20 hours a week of productive time that you can apply to your goals, your dreams, etc.
Mm-hmm. I've tried this before and it was a massive failure. And apparently you get to the point where it just clicks and it just works. But I never got it to work. What fascinates me is some of the names you mentioned then and other people that have used it. It's not people who are kind of being lazy and just wanting to still play computer games. These are actually some of history's biggest producers that have used this kind of sleep pattern.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I like you, I actually never, I read up on it when I was researching the Miracle Morning. I sleep usually 5.5, 6 hours a night. So I didn't see a big, it basically said everyone that has done it is like, yeah, the first month you're pretty much a wreck, and then like you said, it clicks. And I thought, I don't have a month to be a wreck, So.
It's true. Well, first off, I want to dive into two further things with you. One is your book. I want to look at that a little bit further.
Okay.
But some of these things that you've mentioned now, obviously you've written a book, but there's a lot more to you and a lot more to what you preach. And you've got a best ever blueprint event coming up. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that before we get into the book?
Yeah, thanks for asking. No, it's been, so I'm a keynote speaker. I've been speaking for, 15 years, roughly 16 years. And I feel like it's my greatest gift. But I've been, like anyone listening, in fact, I'm glad you asked this because let me share this. I have failed at so many goals. And when I say fail, I shouldn't say fail because the only way you can fail is to give up. I have set a goal for a year and I have failed that year. Like writing the Miracle Morning book, I felt a sense of responsibility to share it with the world. And it was at the top of my goals for, I think, 3 years in a row. And I failed year after year after year after year. And then ironically, I had this realization that I needed to filter the goal of writing the Miracle Morning into my Miracle Morning. The Miracle Morning is made up of 6 practices. And I thought, I've got to filter the goal of writing the Miracle Morning into these 6 practices. And when I did that, 4 months later, the book was done. It was number 1 on Amazon. And, now it has like 475 5-star reviews. It's one of the, highest rated books on Amazon. And it was all because I got over that fear, that the thing that was holding me back. Here's the point. To tie this into my live event has something that it's been on my goals since 2011. In fact, I found my affirmations the other day from 2011, and it was almost embarrassing it to myself. I thought, and it was like, this is the year. Put on your live event. You owe it to the world. This is what you're meant to do. Get over your fear. They'll, if you put it on, they'll come. And those were my 2011 goals. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 2014. I still haven't done it. And then finally, 3 months, maybe 6 months ago, it clicked. I thought, wait a minute, I'm going to filter my first live event through the 6 practices of the Miracle Morning. And it basically accelerates it gives you the mindset that you need to achieve any goal that you want, even one you've been putting off for years. Now we're a few months into it. We've got 150 people registered, and it's going to happen. I'm so excited, and it's going to be like no other event. Literally, I go to a lot of events. It's going to be like no other event, very experiential, very fun, and just a game changer. And it's designed to prepare people at a level they've never been prepared before to go into the new year and really take themselves in every single area, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, relationally, right? Every aspect of your life, really go out and create, an extraordinary year. And it's based on, not just my research and teachings, but just my experience of being able to go, like, I've doubled my income multiple years I've had where I've doubled my income from one year to the next. And then a couple of years after that, doubled it again. And then, so things like that where I ran a 52-mile ultra marathon, even though I hated running. And it's like, okay, how do you get yourself to do these things that are like really outside of the realm of what, like, I even believed were possible? And so I want to teach people, how do you systematically really create extraordinary results in every area of your life simultaneously? And don't be like, the majority of society where, the year ends and like 97% of people look back and go, man, I didn't achieve, I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to write my book. I wanted to start a business, but I didn't. So I really want to inspire, not just inspire, but empower people with exactly what they need to take their lives, both personally and professionally, to the next level.
It sounds awesome, man. And you're obviously super excited about it. And that just shows that it's important to you. And so it's going to be a success just because of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we'll link to all that in show notes, and we'll have a chat afterwards and see what we can do to help support you through it and get some more guests going. But coming back to the book,
yes,
you mentioned 6 practices. We don't need to go through them all, but can you give us 1 or 2 takeaways for the audience so they can leave this interview? And you've mentioned 1 so far, but can you give them a couple more takeaways and leave this interview and have a real impact and change on their morning?
Yes. This is the premise of the Miracle Morning. And as I've been doing interviews, I'm always, and I'm even working on other books in the series and this and that. I'm getting all these different perspectives on what the Miracle Morning is. And in a nutshell, it's based on the premise that if you want to improve your life, you have to improve yourself, right? Not rocket science, but most of us are trying to make our outer world better, right, without improving our inner world. We're trying to, on a scale of 1 to 10, we all want level 10 success, but most of us aren't dedicating time. We don't have a process, a system every day for extraordinary personal development so that we can become the level 10 person that we need to be to create the level 10 life and the level 10 results, the level 10 happiness, level 10 energy, level 10 money, finances that we really, really want. And that's in essence what the Miracle Morning is. It's the most effective, it's also the simplest, but the simplest and most effective strategy and process that I have ever seen for taking yourself to the next level as fast as humanly possible so that you can take your results to the next level as fast as humanly possible. And it's about waking up in the morning, not at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever, but it's about whatever you wake up in the morning now. If you think about this, Will, this is an interesting distinction that I came up with when I was writing the book. Most people wake up in the morning when they have to be up, right? So they look at, okay, I have to be somewhere at blank time, and then they back it up and go, what time do I need to wake up to get ready to be there on time? Uh-huh. And if you think about that, if you're waking up in the morning and you're waiting until the last moment when you have to be up, the energy you're creating it's like we all claim to want an extraordinary life, but not as bad as we want to sleep as long as humanly possible, right?
But that is a strong motivation for some reason in the morning to snooze.
Yeah, the premise for the Miracle Morning, and the other part of it is, look, when the alarm goes off, that's life's first gift to you. So if you're going to dedicate time each day to becoming the person that you need to be to create the results that you want in your life, the best time to do it is first thing in the morning before the rest of your day gets in the way, gets you off track, gets you distracted, so that you can start your day in the optimum mindset and set the right context to win the day. If you have a lazy or lethargic or unproductive morning, that's the type of person that you're starting your day becoming, and that's the type of day you're setting yourself up to live and the life that you're going to live. If you have a focused, productive, disciplined, goal-oriented morning, growth-oriented morning, then it's going to be virtually impossible for you to not improve that day, right? The Miracle Morning allows you to become a better version of who you were when the alarm went off that day. And if you become a better version of yourself every single day, then your outer world starts to very quickly reflect your inner world, and you start to astound yourself with what's possible.
For sure. So is this putting routine in place so that you're not using up decision fatigue and you're setting yourself on the right for the morning? I mean, for me specifically, if I get up, first thing I do is coffee, read, and then I set my goals for the day. And at that point, I've set myself on this path that snoozing or faffing around with something else, which would, the alternative would be the path of setting your goals and reading something inspirational in the morning means that you're almost forcing yourself without any effort whatsoever. You're forcing yourself to have a good day because you've got that focus there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And what you just mentioned, I mean, those are a couple practices of the Miracle Morning, and that in essence is that's a kind of a miniature Miracle Morning. Getting up, focusing on your goals. Now, I will share one little bonus tip here. One of the there's a chapter in the Miracle Morning book called the 5-Step Snooze-Proof Wake-Up Strategy. And it's funny, this is the shortest chapter in the book, and it's probably the most important. It really is the linchpin, because if people read the Miracle Morning and they're like, wow, I never realized how important, early rising is, and I'm going to try it. And then they've got these 6 practices that the Miracle Morning gives you called the Life Savers. Savers is the acronym. I'll go through those in a second. But if that was it, and I didn't do this little chapter on how, like, these 5 simple baby steps to get your butt out of bed in the morning, I think the whole book wouldn't have created this movement that it's created. It would have fallen flat because people would have been like, oh yeah, I read that book. It was great. I was so sold on the morning, but man, I just, I did it 1-2 days and then I just fell back into my routine and that was it. These 5 steps are a game changer. And I'll give you one of the steps because you mentioned you get up in the morning, you drink coffee. First thing you have to do when you get up in the morning is down a full glass of water. And the reason is, we should be taught this in like high school, but when the alarm goes off or when we get up in the morning, we're dehydrated by default because you just went, whether you slept 6, 7, 8 hours, you didn't have any water during that time. So your body is dehydrated, and dehydration and fatigue go hand in hand. Then you drink coffee, which is a diuretic, which dehydrates you further. Now you're even worse. You're setting yourself up for a bad late morning or early afternoon crash. So the first thing we got to do is pound a full glass of water. And then I'm a coffee drinker. Then I make my cup of coffee and, sip it throughout the morning.
That's great advice. And it's something I've not really thought about. And yeah, inadvertently, I'd probably do drink a glass of water and don't realize it. The coffee for me isn't even, I have it quite weak, and it isn't even to wake me up. It's the ritual. Because when I get up, I'm half asleep. By the time you've gone through, grinding the beans, using your French press or whatever, then I'm coming round, and it's just knowing that there's a cup of coffee in the morning. That's what gets me literally out of bed.
That psychologically, Will, that's brilliant, and that kind of is what you just described is the essence of that 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy. Is the 5 steps are so simple that you could do them while you're half asleep. But the point is that when you're done doing them, now you're no longer half asleep. Now you're awake because it's taking you 5 minutes, and every minute that you're awake, I always say you become, your wake up motivation level kind of goes up a point. Every minute you can stay awake, it goes up a point. But most people decide whether or not they're going to get out of bed by reaching their hand over onto their nightstand and hitting the snooze button, right?
Yeah, man. Like, just move your alarm further away. That's
the other step. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Well, look, Hal, we're coming up to time here, but I really want to do some quick fire questions with you. It's quick fire questions we found the best way to learn about our guests. You down with that?
Absolutely, please.
If you could choose one place to live in the whole of the planet, where would it be?
It would be either where I live now, which is Temecula, California, down here near San Diego, or it would be maybe 40 minutes west, which is on the beach in San Diego. So, but either way, it'd be real close to where I am now.
That's awesome. If you could give anyone a hug, who would it be?
My daughter, my son, and my wife, all one big family hug. And then I would give you a hug for having me on your podcast.
Oh, nice. What time did you get up this morning?
Actually, I slept in this morning because we had a late night last night. I slept in until 4:30 a.m.
When was the last time you've punched someone?
I don't think I've ever punched someone.
Fair enough. What is one book other than your own that you'd recommend to the Upgraded Ape audience?
It's called Vision to Reality, and it's by Honoré Corder. You can get it on Amazon.com. Relatively quick read. It's got great ratings, but it's relatively unknown book. It's not. It's kind of off the radar. But yeah, Vision to Reality. Check it out. Great book.
Awesome stuff. And Hal, I've got one final question for you today, and that is, if you could go back in time and speak to a younger Hal, what would be one piece of advice you'd give him to help upgrade his brain?
It would be eat a raw vegan. I shouldn't say eat a primarily raw vegan diet. That to me is I shouldn't say just remove bad foods, remove chemicals, right? Don't put sunscreen on with all the chemicals. Like my wife and I've gotten really big on, no GMO foods, only organic. I definitely eat meat, but I eat it in very small moderation. So it would really be about diet and about really eating clean, good foods, nothing processed, and not putting any chemicals in your body or even on your skin.
And what difference have you noticed from doing that?
Well, for me, it's eating for energy. Like when I went to like a vegan raw diet, it was based on the premise that digesting food is one of the most energy draining processes that there is. And I thought I want energy. And so I got educated on, when you eat living foods, right? Foods that they have not been cooked, they have not been canned, they have not been boxed, they have not been processed. They still contain most of, the living nutrients. Then that living energy that is living in the food is now in your body and it's converted into energy. So that was my big thing is, just during the day eating almost all living foods. And then at night when I don't really need an abundance of energy anymore, I can wind down with a piece of fish or some cooked vegetables or whatever it is. But that's been the biggest thing is that mental energy and physical and mental energy and mental clarity has been the biggest difference.
Well, Hal, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time today. Can you just give us the URLs and the links for your live event, your book, your website, and anything else you want to share with us?
Absolutely. You can get the Miracle Morning book. The best place to buy it is on Amazon.com or Amazon. Is it UK?
.co.uk.
Right? Yeah, so get it on Amazon. That's the best place to buy the book, and you can get it on Kindle or paperback, either one. And then if you want to come check out the Best Year Ever Blueprint event, it is bestyeareverlive.com. bestyeareverlive.com. As of this recording, we've still got like 30 spots available out of the 200, so hopefully it's not sold out when this goes live. bestyeareverlive.com. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, here's a code. If you want to go and you want to get 10% off any of the registration levels, put in the code HAL VIP 10, HAL VIP, and the number 10 at the promotional code on the final registration page, and you'll get 10% off any of the registration levels. And thank you, Will, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I really, really, really appreciate your time, and I hope you got some value today.
Awesome stuff. They will have Hal, and we'll link to all that in the show notes. And yeah, just thanks again for coming on the Upgraded Ape Show.
Yeah, Will, thanks for having me, buddy. Take care.